GeekWaresASMR for another true crime video. This is the second Spooktober video of the month, and I am going to continue the spooky content through November, maybe December, and maybe forever if I feel like it. If you did not watch my last video, that's totally fine if it wasn't for you, but I have been missing because I bought a house. We have been moving, we have been painting, we have been cleaning, we've been doing all of that crazy stuff. I would not have chosen to do it in the end of September, beginning of October. Number one, because it's my birthday, and number two, it's now 50 something degrees out, and it was like 90 when we moved, whatever, it doesn't matter. So, and Spooktober, right? It's that time of year where I actually get to do spooky content. So, but I've made a deal with myself for this channel. I'm going to continue to do true crime as often on Sundays as possible, but I'm also going to start doing some other stuff, and I hope that that's okay with you guys. I kind of experiment quite a bit on Patreon, and they don't seem to mind, so hopefully you guys do not as well. This is my filming room. It is not by any means the way it is actually going to look once I'm done, but I would love to know if you like the white background more than the black background. This is actually a wall. It's a little bit shinier-ish than I'd like, so I don't know if it's too bright with the ring light. I don't know. So let me know down below. Leave me a comment and tell me whether you like the black or the white. I'm gonna try to I have to get a different piece to put my spooky backdrop back up for the rest of the Spooktober season. Anyway, tonight's case is a solved case, and it does involve the death of a child. So this is your trigger warning if you want to click off of this video, because that is not your thing. That is totally fine. I get it. I also may sound a little strange. I sound strange to myself. I broke a tooth. So I'm like talking to not hit the sharp point into my cheek. So anyway, I'm done rambling now. I don't know, 3 minutes in, and we're going to talk about Maddie Clifton this evening. I have put this case aside so many times because I know that little kid cases are a sensitive topic, so I will try to not get into, I tried to keep the gruesome stuff out, alright? Maddie Clifton was born June 17th of 1990, and she lived with her family in Jacksonville, Florida. At the time of this case, she was just 8 years old. She attended piano classes, and she danced ballet, and she loved to play with the other children in the neighborhood. That brings us to November 3rd, 1998. Maddie and her older sister Jessica stayed at home waiting for their parents to get home. It was election time, and they were out doing something related to that. Their parents got home at about 4 p.m. and they allowed Maddie to go out and play with the other neighborhood children, but she was supposed to come back at dinner time, about 5 p.m. So Maddie and her friends were playing studies. And Maddie was like, yeah, I'm just getting, and I'm leaving. And this was the last time that any of Maddie's family members saw her alive. At around 5 p.m., Maddie's mother asks Jessica to call for her little sister at dinner. Jessica rides her bike on the street where they lived, searching for Maddie. When she comes across Maddie's friends, they tell her that Maddie went home a while ago. Jessica decides to take a couple more rounds on her bike around the block. She calls for Maddie and passes by the houses of several other neighborhood children that could be playing with her sister. Once Jessica gets home, she tells her parents she couldn't find Maddie, and they call the police. The police worked quickly in this case, and really the first 7 days of searching for Maddie were intense. The community got involved. The police had the assistance of sniffer dogs. Neighbors acted like patrol members. They covered nearby areas. They took statements of all of the residents in the area, and nothing turned up. Nothing. No one had seen her. No one had seen anything strange or otherwise in the neighborhood on the night of November 3rd, 1998. In fact, the FBI got involved in this search, and suspects were ruled out, such as a predator living in the region and a middle-aged man who used to watch the children of the neighborhood play kind of creepily. They both had solid alibis. So, across the street from the Clifton house are the Phillips. The Phillips family, Steve and Melissa, had 3 children, but only one of them still lived at home. Joshua Phillips was 14 years old, and he had a strict upbringing at home. On November 10th, 1998, 7 days after Maddie had gone missing, Melissa Phillips was home alone. Her husband Stephen was at work, and Joshua was at school. She decided that she had to go clean her 14-year-old's room because it was stinky. There was a really strong smell coming from what she believed was the bird cages that he kept. I didn't really find how many birds or what kind or anything like that. Melissa does a thorough cleaning. She changes the linings of these bird cages, but she still can't get rid of this odor. Joshua sleeps on a waterbed, and as she is looking around trying to figure out what is causing this smell, she notes that this waterbed is leaking. I remember my sister having a waterbed when I was a child. My cousin kept goldfish in his, anyway, I'll talk about it in a minute. So Melissa is like, okay, it's leaking, there's water, there has to be mold, and this is what I am smelling. My mom was one of those people that believed she could smell dust. Do you know anybody like that? So Melissa removes the sheets, and she notices that Joshua had already tried to stop this leak in his waterbed using silver duct tape. However, there was like a sock stuck in the midst of all of this tape, and Melissa tries to pull it. the body of 8-year-old Maddie Clifton. She is in shock for several minutes. She just kind of sits there. When she gets her wits about her, which I cannot imagine, she calls her husband. However, her calls go to voicemail. So she decides she can't wait for her husband or Joshua to get home, and she bravely goes across the street to the Clifton house and tells the police there everything that she has discovered. The authorities call for reinforcements, and they immediately go to Joshua Phillips's bedroom. Maddie's 8-year-old body was found partially dressed, with only a t-shirt and socks on. Signs of violence indicated she had been beaten with a baseball bat and then stabbed. A search of Joshua's room revealed a blood-stained shoe stored in the closet, as well as blood splatters on his ceiling. The police found the knife that was used in the crime behind his TV, and right in front of his bed was Maddie's missing persons poster. They found cleaning products, air fresheners, and incense in his room as well. Joshua likely had noticed the smell and was trying to hide it from the parents. After a quick search of the house, they go to his school and they arrest him. Fellow students and teachers were extremely surprised, as Joshua did not appear to be a violent kid, and he really had good relationships with the community. So, we're going to talk about Joshua a little bit. He was born in Allentown, Pennsylvania on March 17th of 1984, the same year that I was born. So, he's 39. His father, Steve, worked in computing. He was an alcoholic, and he engaged in domestic violence inside the waterbed for the first time. She's actually like in the underneath portion of the waterbed. When his father returned home, Joshua calmly interacted with him for a while and then went back to his room. Before nightfall, he took her out from underneath the bed and stabbed her. I'm not going to get into the details of what exactly he did, but that's enough. Then he put her in the same spot and covered the hole with the silver duct tape. I believe that she made some kind of noise, and that is why he felt as though he had to do more to keep her quiet. Prosecutors contested some parts of Joshua's story, as they do. The state prosecutor suggested the murder may have been motivated by SA. I'm not going to say it. My channel doesn't like it. But her autopsy revealed no signs of that. Nevertheless, Joshua's computer history indicated he had watched some pretty violent things before killing her and returned to watch more after he had placed her inside the waterbed. 14-year-old Joshua Phillips was tried as an adult. The defense attorney maintained the version that Maddie Clifton's death was an act that began as an accident and deteriorated into panicked madness. Jurors took just over 2 hours to convict Joshua Phillips of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. He was not eligible for the death penalty because he was under 16 years old. Joshua Phillips completed his education in the United States prison system, although he was initially told he was too young to do so, and he later took correspondence college courses. Joshua Phillips works as a legal assistant in prison. He helps other inmates with their appeals, and he serves as a tutor for fellow prisoners. He plays guitar in a band, and he participates in Christian religious services. So there are inconsistencies in this case. Joshua stated that her clothes had come off of her body as he had dragged her through the yard. However, there were no signs of grass or dirt or scratches or any other organic material on her body. One of the many theories about this case is that he was watching these violent things on his computer and he felt stimulated, if you catch my drift. And so when he saw her walking on the sidewalk with the golf balls, she was going back to her friends as she was supposed to, he then lured her into his house. His browsing history proved that he routinely watched things like this. During the search of his room, officers found a photo of Jessica Clifton, Maddie's sister. A few years earlier, Maddie's residence had been burglarized, and the family realized that this picture of Jessica had gone missing. And it seemed really odd to them because it wasn't a valuable item. Joshua did admit to being responsible for the break-in. Jessica believes he had been observing them and nurturing some form of obsession for a long time, choosing to harm Maddie, who, being younger, was an easier target for him. So, this is, the video froze. This is another one of those terrible cases in which jail for things involving children, pictures and things, without ever actually having to do any, you know what I mean? So it is completely wackadoo to me. I don't know. I feel like 1998 was such, I mean, we had those big old huge computers. Why did he have a computer in his bedroom? You know, when a lot of these criminals that we talk about here on my channel have these violent tendencies, they start with animals and things like that. He was watching all these violent things and started straight out with a person. That is completely bizarre to me. I don't know. Absolutely terrible that this happened to an innocent little girl who probably thought this kid was her friend. Now, am I gonna say that it wasn't an accident? You know, maybe he was playing ball with her and he hit her in the face and he panicked. I'm not gonna say that that's not what happened. However, reading what was found that he was watching on his computer before and after he did this to this little girl, I mean, he panicked and shoved her underneath his waterbed instead of taking her home and explaining what happened. That to me is completely strange. You know, if you just accidentally hit her with a baseball, she just lived across the street and her parents were home. Why didn't she just run home? I don't know. I think that's very, very odd. Anyway, I know this is not a long case, and I see that my computer has frozen again, so half of this video will have a picture of Maddie, or Maddie and Joshua, depending on what I find. But definitely let me know down below if you like the black or white background, so I can know for next time. Thank you guys so much for being